In a surprising move that has reverberated across North America, Canada has introduced new tolls on American trucks heading to Alaska. This bold action is a direct counter to the ongoing trade war initiated by the Trump administration. The tolls are aimed at commercial vehicles transporting goods to and from Alaska via British Columbia. The Alaska Highway, a vital route, is the only land connection between Alaska and the lower 48 states. This new trade barrier could significantly disrupt the flow of essential goods. Food, fuel, and construction materials all travel along this route. The move has sparked strong criticism from American businesses and lawmakers. They claim it undermines the spirit of free trade and will have harmful effects on both economies. The tolls are expected to greatly increase costs for businesses that depend on the Alaska Highway. Trucking companies, already dealing with rising fuel prices and a driver shortage, now face another financial challenge. Navigating this already complex border crossing has become even more expensive and cumbersome. The situation is especially troubling for Alaska, which relies heavily on the highway for its supply chain. The state's remote location and limited infrastructure make it particularly vulnerable to disruptions in the flow of goods. Businesses and residents are preparing for higher prices and potential shortages. Canada's imposition of these tolls is widely viewed as a countermeasure to President Trump's protectionist trade policies. Since assuming office, Trump has enforced tariffs on various Canadian imports, including steel, aluminum, and lumber. He justifies these tariffs by citing national security concerns and alleged unfair trade practices. Canada, however, has strongly refuted these claims. The two countries have historically enjoyed a close trading relationship. In retaliation to Trump's tariffs, Canada has levied its own tariffs on American goods. This escalating trade conflict has strained relations between the two nations. It has also cast uncertainty over the future of the North American Free Trade Agreement, or NAFTA. The tolls on American trucks signify a major escalation in this trade dispute. This marks the first instance of Canada directly targeting American commerce passing through its territory. It is a clear indication of Canada's growing frustration with the Trump administration's trade policies. The move has incited outrage among many in the U.S. government and business sectors. They argue that it breaches international trade norms and sets a dangerous precedent. Nonetheless, Canada remains steadfast in its position. They assert that the tolls will stay in place until the U.S. lifts its tariffs on Canadian goods. The tolls imposed by Canada are hitting Alaska the hardest. Alaska's dependence on the Alaska Highway for essential goods transportation is significant. Its isolation and limited infrastructure make it highly susceptible to supply chain disruptions. Both businesses and consumers are preparing for increased prices and possible shortages. The tolls are adding substantial costs to the transportation of goods to Alaska. These additional expenses are being passed on to consumers. Alaskans, who already endure a higher cost of living than the lower 48 states, are now facing even steeper prices for daily necessities. The situation is especially critical for Alaska's remote communities. These areas rely heavily on trucks for essential supplies like food, medicine, and fuel. Delays and increased costs are already affecting their daily lives. Alaska's congressional delegation has voiced serious concerns about the tolls. They have urged the Trump administration to take swift action to resolve the trade conflict. They contend that the tolls are damaging American businesses and consumers and weakening the strong ties between the United States and Canada. The Canadian government stands by its decision to implement the tolls. They assert that this measure is essential to safeguard their interests against what they view as unjust trade practices by the United States. Canadian authorities have declared that the tolls will persist until the Trump administration lifts its tariffs on Canadian products. This action has garnered widespread support from many Canadians. They feel their government is justified in resisting what they perceive as coercive tactics by the United States. For many Canadians, the trade conflict has become a point of national pride, as they are exasperated by the Trump administration's rhetoric and actions. The Canadian government has reiterated its dedication to free trade and its strong ties with the United States. Nonetheless, they insist they will not be coerced into submission. They argue that the tolls are a crucial step to protect Canadian jobs and businesses. The Canadian government has also voiced its frustration with the lack of progress in resolving the trade dispute. They have urged the United States to engage in meaningful negotiations to reach a mutually beneficial resolution. The tolls imposed by Canada are sending shockwaves through the American economy, affecting both businesses and consumers. Trucking companies, already dealing with a driver shortage and rising fuel prices, now face the additional burden of these tolls. This is further squeezing their already tight profit margins. These extra costs are trickling down the supply chain, resulting in higher prices for consumers on a variety of products. From groceries to building materials, households across the nation are feeling the impact of these tolls. This is especially true in Alaska, where the Alaska Highway is a critical lifeline. The trade dispute underscores the interconnected nature of the global economy and the unintended fallout from protectionist trade measures. While the tariffs aim to safeguard American jobs and industries, they have instead triggered retaliatory actions that are hurting American businesses and consumers. Small businesses in particular are bearing the brunt of the trade conflict. Many lack the capacity to absorb these increased costs and are being forced to either raise prices or reduce their workforce. Consumers are also feeling the strain as their purchasing power diminishes with rising prices. In response to the immediate impact of the tolls, Alaska is actively seeking alternative transportation routes to alleviate the disruption to its supply chain. This includes increasing reliance on maritime routes, both from the contiguous United States and from international ports. The state is also considering the expansion of its rail infrastructure. However, each alternative comes with its own set of challenges. Maritime routes are vulnerable to weather delays and increased costs. Expanding rail infrastructure demands significant investment and faces logistical obstacles. The search for a viable alternative highlights the strategic importance of the Alaska Highway and the challenges posed by its current inaccessibility. One option under consideration is to increase the use of the Northern Sea Route, which runs along the Arctic coast of Russia. While this route is shorter than traditional shipping lanes, it is only navigable for a few months each year due to ice conditions. Another option is to boost air freight capacity, but this is a more expensive solution and may not be suitable for all types of goods. The ongoing trade conflict between the United States and Canada, highlighted by the tolls on the Alaska Highway, has created uncertainty about the future of their economic relationship. This conflict has revealed deep-seated tensions and questioned the long-standing belief in a stable and predictable trade partnership. The resolution of this dispute will have significant consequences for the broader North American economy. A prolonged trade war could result in decreased investment, job losses, and slower economic growth across all three countries. On the other hand, a negotiated agreement could lead to a more balanced and mutually beneficial trading relationship. This dispute also underscores the need for a more modern and comprehensive trade agreement between the United States, Canada, and Mexico. The current agreement, NAFTA, has been in place for over 2 decades and needs updating to reflect the realities of the 21st century global economy. Specialists caution that the ongoing trade conflict between the United States and Canada could result in lasting economic repercussions for both nations. The imposed tariffs and countermeasures are already causing supply chain disruptions, raising business costs, and leading to higher consumer prices. If tensions continue to rise, It could result in a reduction in cross-border investments. Companies may become hesitant due to the unpredictable trade climate, resulting in decreased investments in both economies. This could hinder innovation and economic growth, especially in sectors that depend heavily on international trade. The trade conflict also risks damaging the strong relationship between the United States and Canada. These two countries have long been close allies and significant trading partners. However, the current conflict has strained relations and diminished trust. Restoring this relationship will be crucial for ensuring economic stability and security in North America.